here. Next, we have Kelly Myskowski, and she is your soul transformational coach, a speaker, writer, a craniosacral therapist, and she's going to share with us about an invitation and where they're hiding, because that's often a question that we've asked. Well, where are they? Because we don't trust the timing. So Kelly, it's all yours.
No pressure. Thank you for the invitation to be here and the invitation to speak. So for those of you that don't know me, I just wanted to share a little bit about how I got here in the first place. Just to give it some context. I was working in the corporate world, and the companies that I was working for, so there was some stress there. My soul had been whispering to me that it was time for a change, for me to be in a different capacity in the world, but I was ignoring that whisper, and it got louder as physical symptoms that did not fit the norm in the medical world, did not respond to traditional interventions with massage therapy and occupational and physical therapy and adjustments to my workstation to make me more comfortable and whatnot. And when I was able to get to a place of receiving craniosacral therapy, which I view as a way of taking us to that place of deep relaxation to connect with the quantum field, the vortex, or whatever you want to call it, and allow the unwinding and releasing of our deep conditioning that we've experienced, whether it's through a real trauma or just the conditioning that we have experienced in our families and in our society and whatnot, and start to let go of some of those limiting patterns and tensions in our bodies. And I also, through that process, discovered that our beliefs are actually anchored in physiological programs in our bodies. So through allowing all of that to kind of unwind and myself to open to more fully being me, the universe stepped in and my path opened to me much more naturally, to the point that I had the privilege of driving to Windsor, Connecticut on my birthday to be told that my job was being eliminated. And I knew at that point that it was time to finally listen and open to what's next for me, which eventually led to me in the late 90s, knowing that if I were to die without ever having the chance to help another human being tap into who they are in the most natural way possible and decondition and become themselves and step into their unique purpose, it would be the one regret I would have in my life. And I became a craniosacral therapist for the purposes of helping people in their personal growth process. It was part of my design to come up with something very unique and be ahead of my time. As a projector, especially, we can be ahead of the curve. I did not have a role model for being in business. I didn't know how to be in business. I was asking the question, how do I do this? How do I communicate what I do? Because it's so unique. Went through a lot of coaches, self-study programs, group coaching programs, and they never felt right. What I was being guided to do did not feel right. There was some good information, tech stuff and logistical stuff that was good to know, but there was no energy from me behind what they were offering. It felt slimy. It didn't feel aligned to me. After 2 decades, a few years ago, I finally fell into discovering my human design and digging into that more deeply, and then going through some profit potential coaching with a BG5 coach to learn that intuitively I really fell into the business that I'm meant to be in. And it was so affirming to me to have that reassurance and to be, part of this summit and see in more than one way from more than one person that, yes, it's awesome. It's magic when you really realize, what your design is and begin living your design. And I also love what Marianne Pack shared yesterday in her presentation, a quote from Abraham Hicks, that one who is connected to the energy stream is more powerful than 1 million who are not. And two who are harmoniously focused and connected to the energy stream bring about a co-creative endeavor that cannot be matched by anything else in all the universe. And we've talked so much about collaboration here through the summit and coming together and being ourselves. That, to me, this is really speaking to human design, which I see as a framework for understanding our part and our dynamics in relationship to the whole, to all that is. But remembering that it really is mechanical, it's about energy flow, it's not personal. And at this point in time, not everyone has gotten that invitation. Not everyone knows the rules of this game. So it can be even more challenging to live our design when we're living with and interacting with and doing business with people that are not aware of how this all works. That said, knowing and aligning with that energy flow, we encounter less resistance and more support. There is more harmony in the world. There is more ease in our lives potentially, and we're making more efficient use of our precious time and energy and resources so we can be happier, healthier, and more successful. Successful being the signpost for projectors that we are living in alignment. But why do we need an invitation in the first place? Let alone what are they and where are they? But we need to remember why. As we have discussed previously, our auras are very penetrating. And other people may feel that and may not feel comfortable with us kind of looking into their souls, right? So just being with someone and observing their process as we naturally do can lead us into that relationship in a way that we're not welcome. And then because we can see things from a different perspective, we want to guide and offer advice. And that really lights us up to be able to do that. But if they aren't open to that, they're not going to receive it well. And that's going to create even more frustration on our part and disappointment and bitterness, ultimately, right? So has anybody ever had that experience of offering something and it wasn't received? And how does it feel? Yeah. I had a client one time that was trying to help some friends, some elderly neighbors, and was frustrated. And this was before human design. And I could see, they aren't open to it. As much as you want to help, you're going to have to watch the bus crash, I guess. So it's just going to have to be that way, but he wasn't getting the memo either. So we also don't have sustainable energy because of not having our sacral centers defined. And therefore, we need the energy of others. We need their presence. We need their energy to do. We need their support. It's very difficult for us without that sacral builder energy, that life force energy and that workforce energy coming through us, for us to sustain anything and build anything from nothing. So if we're invited by someone into a situation, a relationship, an agreement, an opportunity, a program, project, whatever it is, and they are expecting us, they're welcoming us in, they're planning to provide some resources, isn't that a much easier opportunity to go into, right? Because the path is kind of paved for us. There is a welcoming, there's an anticipation, there is support, there are resources for us. And isn't that really what an invitation is? Even when we are invited into something quite literally, hey, you want to go to lunch? Hey, do you want to work with me? Hey, will you help me with this? Energetically, there's an opening there. There's energy on the other side. There's an expectation. There's an anticipation. There's a welcoming. And that's pure energetics. So what also comes up with this is other ways that we can be invited when it's not literal, right? When somebody doesn't say, hey, will you join me? Hey, would you like to? We walk into perhaps a networking situation or a public situation, and how do we fit into the room? Well, we have great awareness skills. We have great spidey senses. We have great intuition and the power to observe. So don't you sometimes catch and lock eyes with somebody and feel kind of welcomed in? That's an invitation. Or there's a circle of people that are talking to each other, and then somebody sees you and steps aside, making space for you to join them, or somebody initiates with you a conversation, right? So that's another way that potentially we're invited. Now, obviously, part of this, depending on your exact design and the circumstances, we may be running this through our authority to determine if this is an invitation for us to accept or not, can also help us know if it's an invitation in the first place. Do we feel welcome there? Do we feel an opening there? Do we feel recognized there? Because bottom line is that it's most correct for us to be invited where we are using our insight, our wisdom, our knowledge, our gifts. And it's about us being, not about us doing. If we're accepting invitations to do, that can set us up for more invitations down the line, where we're being asked to do, which is not what we're built for. Not that we never do anything, but we don't have that sustainable energy to go, go, go. We're not Energizer bunnies. When do we need an invitation, though, is the thing that I find there is a huge misunderstanding around. Think back on your life to the biggest decisions you've ever had to make. You can close your eyes and go back to that if you want. Leave your eyes open, whatever works for you. But perhaps an opportunity to share your life with someone, or a career opportunity, or where you're going to live, or your most important relationships, friendships. How did they come to be? Were you invited in some way? Literally, was an offer extended to you? Okay. The implications and the commitment of your energy and your valuable resources in those situations is huge. So isn't it in those big areas more important than maybe any other situation that you be clear that there is an opportunity that is correct for you, that you are being welcomed in and included and expected and anticipated by whoever is on the other side, and there's going to be energy there to support you when you get there. Okay. But we have to live our lives, right? And when we're not generators living in response, it's a little bit different. The generator feels hungry, they're responding to their hunger by seeking out food. Well, what if your hunger is an invitation from your body to eat something? Okay, so you're living in response, though energetically it's a little bit different in life. You see a pile of laundry and it irritates you. Well, maybe source or spirit or your guidance, your angels or whatever, brought your attention to that pile of laundry because it needs to be done. So there's an invitation for you to be aware of it. Then the question is, do I have the energy? Do I delegate? Is now the time? Do I put it off? Do I go buy new clothes and say the hell with washing what's there? What is your opportunity? So we're still living in connection, in relationship to life, just doing it a little bit differently than generators do. But what about those situations when, there's another thing that I wanted to mention too, that along with that has to do with us being in business. Just the inspiration to share your message on social media. Okay, your social media account isn't going to invite you to post. Your clients aren't going to invite you to post, and you're not forcing anything on anyone. You're sharing your message, you're shining your light in the world in a way that feels uplifting to you and feels good to you, that's part of your empowered waiting and forcing nothing on anybody. So those invitations can be important and subtle, things that we don't want to miss. Okay, Davia, if you want to wait for your clients to invite you to post, go for it. Whatever works for you, girlfriend. But what about those situations, especially as projectors, where we see an opportunity and perhaps the people on the other end of that opportunity that maybe could use us haven't gotten the memo or noticed or aren't aware of us yet. Maybe they're so busy, they just haven't noticed. Okay. I have seen projectors say this works for them, where you can engage that person in a way that still allows for possibility by saying, hey, I noticed that you do this, that, and the other in the world, that you're a healer or an acupuncturist, whatever. And, I really resonate with that. I love that. Would you be open to having a chat sometime? Could we get coffee maybe and just get to know each other a little bit? There's nothing wrong with that. We can invite them. We're good at inviting. Okay. We could say, hey, I see that you're struggling with this. I have some ideas. Can I share them with you? Or would you be open to that? Asking a yes, no question, because chances are pretty good statistically, as we've already discussed, the person on the other end is a generator of some type, and they respond best to yes, no questions. So then by getting to know each other and developing a rapport, there's an opportunity there for us to have an invitation. And depending on the nature of the situation, how important is it for that invitation to be really specific to us, really clear, parameters set? If there's any question, you can always ask, Dr. Davia, are you actually literally inviting me to present on this topic in this summit today? Okay, so clarify. Some people aren't verbal or they aren't good at communication, so it's just important to use your skills and your senses and your strategy and authority to be clear, to align your choices with your foundational structure and energy flow and create synchronicity and correctness, and then magic happens as things line up. But also be aware that invitations do expire. They're in the moment. It may be that the project ended, you're not needed anymore. The situation bigger than us has changed. If you're noticing you're struggling, there's a lack of support, things aren't working, aren't flowing, it may be that that invitation has expired. Any questions before I close? What's your takeaway? What stood out to you? What's most helpful? What's a great reminder for you?
We have time for one comment, so.
Anybody? Yeah, Freya.
Hi, Kelly. I really enjoyed that talk. I think for me, you've just made waiting for the invitation much simpler and easier and fun sounding. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for your comments and your thoughts. And it is about being an empowered waiter and being invitable. So I invite you to go forth with courage, faith, trust, and self-confidence, honesty, humility, compassion for yourself and others. Live your wisdom, respect yourself, because you are too valuable and your gifts are too valuable to waste your efforts, time, and energy for those invitations that are not correct for you, for those where the people are not ready for you and they're not willing.
And thank you, Kelly. That was a powerful, powerful statement to end. And you can see all of us, we're here. I'm continuing to get chills with everybody that speaks up and down my back. So